Let me show you how to make the best sandwich bread. It's soft, fluffy, and so delicious. You're gonna add warm water, yeast, salt, oil, and honey to your mixer. I'm using a Bosch mixer, but a KitchenAid works as well. Next, you're going to add your flour, and don't add all of it because you're gonna check your dough and make sure that you don't add too much. And here I noticed that I definitely needed more, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And I'm checking my dough again. You can see that the dough isn't really pulling away from the sides yet, and so it needed a little bit more flour. Again, I'm going to check my dough just a minute later, and it feels not too sticky, but when I pinch it, it is going to stick to me, so that's perfect. And you can see too, it's starting to pull away from the sides. I'm using just a sprinkle of flour to make sure that doesn't stick to me, but you'll see that I don't really use most of it. Most of the flour is staying to the right of the dough. I'm just using it if necessary. So I'm going to knead it into a nice little ball, and you can see how silky and smooth that dough is. I'll show you a close-up right here. Add your dough to a bowl and cover it with plastic wrap so that it doesn't lose any of its moisture. Once your dough has more than doubled but is still in that perfect dome shape, you're going to go ahead and remove it from the bowl. And again, I'm going to use just a tiny sprinkle of flour to make sure that it doesn't stick too badly to my hands. And we're going to go ahead and shape the dough. So to do this, I like to kind of knead it into like a little bit of a ball, and then I'll tuck in the sides just like that, and I'll gently roll it into more of like a cylinder shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the friction on the counter and the heels of my palms to stretch the dough out to make it a little bit wider and to also close that seam where we were just rolling it up. I prefer to cover it with plastic wrap with a little bit of oil or butter rubbed on top, because when I put the towel on, sometimes the top of the dough will dry out a little bit when it's rising. Gently place it over your dough so that it has room to grow. The loaves are finished rising, and I'm going to very gently remove the plastic wrap. It shouldn't stick to the dough at all. And you want to be very gentle because this dough has risen really high and we don't want it to fall. Here's a side view of how tall the dough has risen. Once it's baked, carefully remove it from the oven. You want the top of the bread to be a nice golden brown color. Let it cool before slicing it, and make sure you're using a sharp serrated knife so that the bread doesn't get squished at all while you're trying to cut it. This is the perfect sandwich bread. It's nice and fluffy, it doesn't fall apart, and it's not crumbly. For more recipes, visit thymeforthetable.com.